Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to Daddy-Daughter Discussions. This is where I get together with my daughter Patrice as she's messing with her camera, and we talk about all the stuff that daddies and daughters should be talking about, maybe don't want to talk about, maybe should not be talking about, or just are gonna talk about. How you doing today, Patrice?
I- I'm doing great, Dad. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It is a nice, sunny Saturday afternoon, and you're in Louisville, Kentucky. I am in Chicago, Illinois, and we decided we wanted to talk today because we saw a daddy-daughter lesson in this story that you wrote under the name Naturally Treese, which you go by when you do your blogging about either hair or different topics. It might be relationships, women's issues, and you were writing about Brittney Griner, the NBA player who's the big, strong lady who just was one of the most dominant players I ever saw. But she also might be one of the most disturbed players we've ever seen. Tell me what's up with Brittany right now, and then let's backpedal that, and then we can expand on it.
Well, right now she has just recently filed for annulment from her wife Glory Johnson, who she's only been married to for 28 days. And just the day before filing for annulment, she filed for annulment on Friday, I believe, and then on Thursday, Glory Johnson had announced that she was pregnant.
Okay. So
Yeah.
wait. She made the announcement that she was pregnant on Thursday. Today's Saturday. So,
Yes.
and I saw the pregnancy announcement like about 2 days ago, right?
Yeah, and that was Thursday.
Okay. And
But
when and
Friday,
oh, go ahead,
Friday,
please
Brittany
continue.
Griner, Friday, Brittany Griner filed for annulment.
Okay, see, my head's hurting. This is crazy. So, and this is after they had just got married and had just got arrested for domestic violence. So,
Yep.
we
After
back.
announcing she was pregnant.
So let's backtrack. All right. So about what 4 or 5 weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, they were both of their mugshots on TV because they got into a domestic violence situation, which became very political to begin with because you saw these brothers in the NFL getting in trouble for domestic violence, losing almost everything. So a lot of people were
Everybody.
saying, "Well, what about this situation? Why aren't you punishing them?" So they did get punished. And then a couple weeks later, they announced, "Oh, we're getting married. Everything's fine. We're getting married." So that's story number two. 2 weeks later, that they're getting married in this romantic ceremony out in Arizona. Then story number three, about a week later, oh, she's pregnant. And then of course, you got to do the math because first you're like, wait a minute, neither one of them has a penis. How did this happen? But then you're like, oh, that's right, that you could go borrow a penis or borrow the seed or whatever it is you need, which is cool. Okay, so they've had domestic violence. A couple weeks later, they get married. A couple weeks after that, they announce they're pregnant. And then a couple of days after that,
Day. One day.
one day after that, Brittany's filing for an annulment. That's crazy. I mean, that's like 20 years worth of living in like a month. What is up with these two? I mean, they need what they need. They need Ayana. Ayana needs to come in there and fix their life. they,
I,
they, they need Ayana Van Zant and Pastor Kevin Cosby. They need to both come into their house and fix their life. Period. So anyway, Kevin Cosby is our favorite pastor in Louisville. We like talking about because he's a great man, a great black man. So
so I know he's probably like, okay, y'all,
y'all
that's
need to
enough.
quit. Y'all need to quit speaking my name. My ears are itching every time you say my name. Well, we're gonna keep saying his name because we love that man. Now tell me, Patrice. What were your thoughts as you were watching all this kind of go down? Because you were blogging about a lot of this. So tell me what your thoughts were when you saw this.
My thoughts were, first, I really do. I feel bad for both of them because I don't know the situation from the inside. I'm just an outsider, but I feel most horrible for Glory Johnson because she's a basketball player as well in the WNBA. And when you get pregnant, the moment that they find out that you're pregnant, you can no longer play until after you have your child. So she sacrificed her career and put everything on hold to to have this child. And then a day later, Brittany Griner files for an annulment. And so my thoughts were, I wonder, and I guess the reason why we're even having this daddy daughter discussion, I was thinking, I wonder what Glory Johnson's father thinks. Because, if a man treats his wife or his girlfriend the way that Brittany Griner has treated Lori Johnson, I'm sure that her father would have done something about this a long time ago. But I wonder how he's handling it, being that it's two women, because you have to handle it a little bit more delicately than you would if it was a man and a woman.
I don't. I wouldn't handle it any less delicately. I mean, I know that
Well,
you.
her
I
father can't beat up Brittany.
well, check it out. I mean, I know that you date men, so we've never had to have that conversation. But let's say that it wasn't like that. First of all, Brittany Griner is stronger than most grown men. Anybody who's seen Brittany Griner, I mean, she got an Adam's apple. Brittany Griner ain't nothing to play with. Like, if Brittany Griner's beating up on you, you gonna hurt. Like, that's not gonna be a pretty situation. Even though we know domestic violence is complex, a lot of people want to act like it's always the more aggressive partner beating up on the smaller, weaker partner. In traditional cases, you're talking about the man, the big, strong man, beating up on the little woman and beating her for no reason, or fighting her for no reason. And that's the narrative people share. But what people don't share is that a lot of domestic violence situations end up like this one was portrayed, where both partners are fighting each other. Even you ever seen the movie What's Love Got to Do with It with Ike and Tina Turner? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a really good movie, and one of the things that people have said, I know people who knew Ike and Tina, and one of the things more than one person has come to me to say is they said it wasn't as simple as it looked. It wasn't like Tina was sitting there just baking the cookies and being polite, and Ike just came in and punched her in the face. It was them fighting each other. She might throw a blow at him, and then he might retaliate. But of course, for men, it's a serious thing, because I just tell men, like, don't even engage in that, because when the police come to the house, chances are they're going to arrest you
that's
because you are a
gonna.
black man. So and really the truth is, violence just has no place in a relationship. It does, so I don't care if he cheated on you with three women and a goat. You have no right to put your hands on him. Period. A lot of people will think, oh, well, I only hit him in the head with the frying pan, or I shot him, or I cut something off because he cheated on me. No, people get hurt in relationships all the time. You're gonna get your feelings hurt. People are gonna disappoint you. Things are not gonna go your way. You have no right to hit another person. The same thing is true for a man. It doesn't matter what the woman did or said to you, unless she put you in a situation where you had to fear for your life. She had a gun to your head, and you had to punch her to take the gun away. Anything short of things like that, you don't have a right to put your hands on that woman. So hitting and fighting and any of that type of violence, it's just there's no place for it. It never ends well. And when the police start getting involved in your relationship, you get to a point where you don't have a choice anymore. You might still have to go to court or send somebody you love to jail because you couldn't handle your disputes in a mature and a productive way. Now, give me more of your thoughts on this in terms of what you're kind of seeing with this craziness with this particular relationship, and then we'll talk in a broader sense.
Um, I mean, I think that Brittany Griner, she said that she felt like the marriage was a mistake, and she said that she had tried to postpone the wedding or whatever. But I don't know. I guess for me, I'm just kind of feeling like if you feel like something is a mistake, then just end it. And my thinking is, what stopped you from, or what couldn't, what, I'm trying to get my words together. What stopped you from actually taking action in your own way versus just going through with the wedding and just playing the role? I mean, to me, if you don't want to get married, then I don't think that you should. And when you do go against your own intuition or your own heart, then things like this happen and people end up hurt, and it just looks like a big confusing mess.
Well, Brittany Griner. The main thing I knew about Brittany Griner was that she was one of the most dominant college basketball players that I've ever seen. I mean, she just, in fact, our hometown Louisville, the Louisville Cardinals, they actually played in the national championship. I think they played against Brittany, or maybe it was no, it wasn't. It wasn't Brittany. Which they beat Brittany's team and upset them to get to the championship. And I couldn't believe it because Brittany Griner was a scary, scary player. And one of the things that I believe is that I know is she's young. I mean, she's 24 years old, and you have to be as old as I am to know how young you are. That's what another 40-something-year-old man said to me when I was your age, because I thought I was old. I thought I had been through some stuff and I had lived a long time, and you have. I mean, when you're 24, 25, you've experienced some things, but it's not nearly as much as you'll experience over the next 10, 15, 20 years. And and so what I see with Brittany is that she's a young woman. Her wife is about as young as she is, and sometimes being young causes you to make decisions that might be overly emotional, or just very what's the word the word I'm looking for? Impulsive. That's it. Impulsive. And so it sounds to me like they took one bad impulsive situation and they made it worse by compounding it with another bad impulsive decision. First, it's like, okay, we're both arrested for domestic violence. We're trying to get out of this. This is bad. Maybe we got back together, had some makeup sex like people do, whatever it is people do to make their relationship feel better after they've gone through it. Because some people live off that. They live off the drama, the ups and the downs, the ups and they're addicted to the drama. And so now, oh, let's get married. I love you. The proposal was probably, I wouldn't, I'm not going to speculate too much, but, a lot of times people might have a haphazard proposal, like you're laying in bed with somebody after you finish sleeping with them. You just turn to them and say, hey, why don't we get married? So it's not like somebody thought about it for 3 or 4 months. Like when my brother got married, I remember when your Uncle Lawrence proposed, he told me about the proposal 3 months before because he wanted to make sure he got the right ring. He wanted to make sure he had the right timing. He wanted to make sure she was the right woman. He took that time to make the decision. When you make it quickly, meaning nobody even knew you were engaged, maybe they were engaged when they got into the fight, but
They were
nobody knew.
engaged for,
Sorry?
they were engaged for 9 months.
Okay, so they were engaged for a while, but everybody's thinking, okay, you both just got arrested for domestic violence. Clearly, you have an issue to work through, and then suddenly you pop up and say we're getting married. That to me it's almost like a rebound kind of thing. Like we had this really bad situation, so now we're going to go ahead and make it into a good situation. And if you recall, Ray Rice married his fiance right after he was accused of beating her up. So sometimes it's like a publicity thing, right? And then on top of that, you compound it by what you say. Go ahead. What you say?
He wasn't accused. It showed him punching her in the elevator.
Yeah, It showed him punching her in the elevator, but it doesn't mean. Don't get me wrong. He did punch her in the elevator. There's no question about it. What he did was definitely wrong. And in fact, when I was thinking about the Ray Rice thing, I was thinking that that's an example to me of why people have to be careful about alcohol too. Because here's the secret about Ray Rice that a lot of people don't know that it gets missed in the press. From a guy who probably never played in the NFL again. He was a good player. Ray Rice was known before that event as a good guy, like a person that would go out of his way to help the community. He would go to the hood and build community centers and spend time with children and help people out and do things that guys like Ray Lewis, who was also on the Ravens, guys like Ray Lewis would never do these things. And so a lot of people were very disappointed that he did this after he had this reputation of being such a great community representative. But the thing is, alcohol, one drunken night of stupidity can mess up everything you work for. And I wouldn't be surprised with Brittany and her fiance. I mean, were they drinking that night? Like, what was going on? A lot of bad stuff happens when people get overly turned up. And people just think it's no big deal because everybody drinks. But I'm telling you, you got something to lose. You need to be real careful with alcohol, especially when you're young, because you don't know the implications. Like people are gonna judge you for life based on something you do at the age of 24 while you were drunk or high. And you might be thinking, well, I wasn't even myself at that time. I got an email one time. I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna let you talk. But I got an email one time from a lawyer, and she was about maybe 29, and she was a smart lawyer, went to a top law school, and one night she got really drunk to the point where she was in the press because she was in the store. Waving her panties in the air, and the police officer tried to arrest her, and she was like F you can eat my blah blah blah, and just saying crazy stuff. And they literally put this in the newspaper, so it got reported on our blog because one of our bloggers found the story and they wanted to write about it. And the lady was emailing us saying that her whole reputation had been ruined. She was losing her clients. Her law firm was losing money because of it. So we did it out of support and sympathy for her. We took the story down, but that one drunken night cost her everything. So people have to understand, like, there are thousands of people in prison right now for stuff they did while they were high or while they were drunk. You
And
can
don't even remember.
and don't even remember it. That is a horrible feeling. There's another story I saw about a young brother who was 19 who took a hit of weed and it was laced with something that caused him to black out for the whole day. By the time the day was over, he had carjacked one person, punched a woman in the face, and killed a white man. And they were about to give him the death penalty, and he didn't remember hardly anything. So people have to be careful when it comes to drugs and alcohol. It ain't something you should take lightly. So anyway, okay. So okay, talking about relationships and stuff like that. Let's not just get into the whole he said she said of Brittany Griner. We kind of hit on that enough. Um, you know, what are your thoughts as far as just just relationship violence in general? I mean, if you see this, let's say Brittany and her wife are friends of yours, and you see them go through a situation like this, and then they tell you they're getting married and having a baby. What are your thoughts as a young woman when you kind of hear this sort of thing?
I would tell them it's a horrible idea.
Mm,
I mean, there's really. I don't feel like that would be wrong. If you're someone's friend, you would tell them, that's a bad idea. Because what's going to happen if this situation happens again? And I think that when you talk about getting married and having children, you have to think about the fact that your children are going to see this stuff. Your children are going to see you beating up on your wife, or they're going to see their dad beating up on their mom, or their mom beating up on their dad, and then they're going to grow up to think that that's the way that it's supposed to be, and then it's just a never-ending cycle until somebody gets some sense and decides that this is not the way that it's supposed to be. So I think that when you're dealing with impulsive people like that, you have to let them know, think about what's going to happen in 20 years. If you guys keep having these situations, your child will be 20, and then they'll go on to get in a relationship with whoever, and either the boyfriend's going to beat on them, or they're going to beat on the boyfriend, or however that's going to go. So you
mm.
have to think about stuff like that. How you have to think more so, not just about yourself, but think about who else it's going to affect.
You know what? I remember when I was about 23 or 24. I remember that I lived near this girl who was dating a guy who would beat her up, and the police would get called, and then about 2 or 3 days later they would be back together. Everything would be okay, and to the point where she would even be mad at the person who called the police. Even though she either asked for the cops to be called or was screaming so much that you had to call the cops. And then it would happen again like a month or two later. And I remember it happening 2 or 3 times that I knew about. And I remember her father came over to move her out of her apartment finally, um, because she was moving away or whatever. And somehow we were talking to him about some of that, and asked him, what he thought about this and what he was going to do. And one of the things that he said, I remember, was he said, well, she keeps going back to him, so that's her choice, that's her life, you know. And I think that that's one of the hard things about being a father, especially in the age in which we live. We live in an age where you've got strong, say a strong feminist bent, where people believe that they don't believe in patriarchy, meaning they don't believe in males kind of having say over what women do, right? So some people might reject the idea of a father intervening and saying, no, I'm not going to allow you, or no, you don't need to be with him, or oh, this is ridiculous. You know, you don't, I'm not going to support this, or telling people what to do. But at the same time, what I find is that, when people make these kinds of mistakes, going back to your point about it affecting other people forget that, and they don't understand that, as a father, you get tired of constantly having to pick up the pieces after people make one bad relationship after another, even if it's your child and you love them. And I know that a lot of my approach is, I'm not going to judge so much in terms of who you bring home, but I mean, I'm going to tell you what I think. But at that point, the decisions are yours. And if you make the wrong decision, I'll have your back, to a point. But if you insist on making decisions totally independently without taking anybody's advice, then I think you should also bear the consequences of those decisions. It only makes sense, because some people will do that. Some people will demand freedom to make whatever choice they want to make, but then when things go wrong, they look for other people to bail them out. You know,
Hmm.
and I don't believe in that. I don't think, so I really think that in general, when you're about that age, 24, 25, I just think, it's not to say I don't think that I don't think getting married is always a bad idea. I know people have gotten married very young and it's worked out very well for them. But I truly think that in most cases, it's just such a bad idea, because most of those marriages do end in divorce. What do you think? Do you have any friends that are your age or younger who've got married, and how's that turned out for them?
I don't have any friends, close friends that are my age who've got married. So I would say the ones that I do know, I mean, they're still married, but I don't know like the details of their relationship. But I was gonna say, with the father that you were talking about, I think that you have to think about, as a dad, you have to think about the backlash. Like if your daughter, because I've seen certain situations where a girl would get into it with the father of her child, and he's hitting her and beating on her and putting his hands on her, and then every time something goes bad, she calls her mom, and her mom will come and save her, do whatever, blah blah blah. But then when she decides that she wants to be with this person again and she likes him again, she wants her mom to be on board with that. And unfortunately, and understandably, a lot of moms or dads are just like, no, I don't like him. I don't have to like him. And the reason why I don't like him is because he's beating the hell out of you. But unfortunately, the daughter, she feels like, well, if you can't accept him, then I can't accept you. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that's where parents get tired of. It's like, okay, either you're gonna be with him and just be with him, or you're not gonna be with him at all. But keep me out of it, because eventually they get tired because it stresses them out too. They're constantly worried about their child, getting calls at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning because their kid is in jail. And I think a lot of parents are just like, well, if she wants to live, then I'm just gonna let her live. This is the final straw, and I'm not gonna do anything about it anymore. Because you can't, like you said, you can't keep calling on people when you don't know what to do. But then all of a sudden, you and this person are okay now, so you want everybody to accept them, and it's very, very difficult. It is. And I think that with a lot of my friends who have been married, I mean, I think that now, I knew a girl who got married when she was 20, and now she's 26. And I honestly think that it's probably very boring for her because she's been with this person since she was 13. So I can't imagine them having, and this isn't for all relationships. Every relationship isn't one size fits all, but I can't imagine them having fun every day. It's not exciting anymore, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, she's even told me, she's just like, I got kids. I got to go home to my kids. She doesn't go out. They don't go anywhere. It's just very boring for her, she said.
Well, it's funny. I remember Chris Rock made a joke. I'm sure a lot of people didn't like this joke, but he was saying he was saying that you have two choices. You can either be single and lonely or married and bored. And personally, I don't think you have to be lonely or bored. I think you can be married or single, and loneliness and boredom are not requirements. But it does take a lot of work to kind of overcome the limitations of that situation. One of the things that I will say is that two thoughts that come to mind based on what you're saying. Especially with you living in the South, I think there's a lot of pressure, too much pressure on black women to get on women, period, but black women in particular to get married before a certain age. You start to be about 25, 26, 27, and people start. They don't even ask you how the rest of your life is going, what you've accomplished, how happy you are. They always ask you, have you found a man? When you get married, or if you've been dating a man for a while, they ask, so when are you going to get married? Because people romanticize the idea of being married. Well, really, marriage is a very, very difficult commitment. And the thing about a commitment is that, and I reflected on this today. A commitment is not just something you keep when it's convenient for you. You show your character when you can keep commitments when they're hard. When it's difficult to keep a commitment, it's easy to keep a commitment when it fits your schedule or it fits your timeline or your comfort zone. But to me, the mature people are the ones who can keep a commitment even when it's uncomfortable. And the thing about marriage is it is a lifetime commitment. I had a friend that got married right after we got out of college. She was about 24 when she got married. And by the time she was 34, 35, her and her husband were cheating on each other. They had their own. He had girlfriends, she had boyfriends, and they were just kind of maintaining the facade because they wanted to be this good, normal Christian couple. And one of the things that she said to me that was really interesting was I asked her. I said, so why would why do you cheat on your husband? Does he beat you? She said no. I said, is he a bad person? She said no, he's a great person. I said, so why would you cheat him? She said, well, because I didn't realize when I got married that forever meant you would be with the same person forever. Like I knew what it meant, but forever means one thing when you say it, and it means another thing when you live it.
Living it.
Like that movie Life with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy. Remember that movie? Did you ever
Life.
see that movie Life? Yeah, it came out like 96, 97. That movie was a great reflection on that because when people talk about doing something for life, it sounds cool. Like, yeah, I'm gonna do this for life, thugged out for life, married for life, whatever for life. But then in the movie, they show you like if you get life in prison or if you do something for life, you're doing that forever. You're just gonna get old doing the same thing. It's not like you're gonna move on to the next adventure after that one's over. You're in. Period. So people have to think about that when you talk about marriage. And so I just generally think even though people can get married whenever they want, if you do get married, make sure you get counseling, make sure you know what you're getting into. But I just think getting married too young can be one of those mistakes that derails everything else in your life. Like, if you have a bad relationship, it makes it difficult for you to focus on your career, to focus on achieving your goals, or focus on anything because a bad relationship is like a virus on your very existence. It literally is like imagine trying to be an Olympic athlete and running when you have a virus in your body that's like the flu. That's how you feel trying to go through life and achieve goals when you got a bad relationship on your back. Now, if you have a good relationship on your back or a good relationship in your space, that can propel you to great things. The right partner can make you a better person than you were before, but the wrong partner can ruin everything. You spend all your money in divorce court trying to fight back and forth. You ever see this when people are in divorce court and they fighting over the kids and fighting over the money and or you see men that done went through the alimony and they're like I ain't got no money because all my money's gone. So you can't start a business. You can't move on and buy a house and do the things that you want to do because you done gave all your money into this relationship. Or emotionally, you don't have the emotional energy or the time to focus on your other goals because all your emotion, all your time, and all your energy is spent trying to manage a bad, sick, toxic situation that you're facing every day when you come home. I have seen that literally kill people. I saw this lady who was a professor and she was really accomplished and had achieved all her goals and was on top of the world and she had two kids with a guy that was just a loser. He wasn't able to really accomplish anything. So apparently he got jealous, got mad. So one day he just murdered her, killed himself, and now her two kids are growing up without parents. So those things have to be factored in. I mean, when you take on a partner for life, you're taking on a partner for life. Like you're giving equity ownership, a percentage of ownership of your life to another person. You should not give something that precious to a person that's not worthy of that kind of trust. You certainly can't do it just because they're cute or just because they good in the bedroom or just because they got swag and make you feel good. Like that is like probably the greatest mistake a person can make. So anyway, I'll let you get the last word, Patrice. I didn't mean to say so much, but I hope that was helpful information.
Yeah, it was good. We will on Sunday be touching on the bringing your girlfriend home to meet your children subject. This week has been popping. There's been a lot of stuff to talk about this week. So I think it's kind of why we've been throwing videos in the middle of there without actually talking about what we said we were going to talk about next.
All right, all right. Well, yes, this week was popping, and you're always popping. What's your YouTube channel? What's it called? Just tell people where they can find you.
Naturally Treese, NaturallyTreece.
Okay, all right. So people,
Instagram the same.
all right, and they could go to you to find all kinds of advice on how to do hair and makeup and all that stuff. And you actually went to school for that. You're not just somebody who talks about how to do hair and makeup and everything else. You actually took tests and got certified and all that good stuff, which I think is a big deal. Because you got a lot of people out here doing stuff and they ain't certified, and next thing you know, bad things happen. I know somebody, oh my goodness, and this ain't even funny. I'm not even laughing, I promise you. I'm smiling, but I'm not laughing. She had somebody put on, and you'll probably have something to say about this, but she had somebody put on a wig for her, but she had to get it sewn in. It was a sew in, I think. Is that what y'all call it? She did a sew in, and she did it too tight, and it ended up removing parts of her scalp, and she has to like miss work for like 2 or 3 weeks because she had to go to the emergency room because the sewing was too tight on her head.
Yeah. That is horrible. I can't live with that.
I
That's
know I'm
not
not laughing. I promise you, I'm not. It's not funny. It is not funny, but
because
it's
a black woman's hair is literally like her crown and glory. Like black women love their hair, and the fact that you done lost your hair because you trying to make your hair look good. Oh my god. I would kick that stylist's ass.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think she might do that. So anyway, so I think that shows the importance of people going to somebody like you who is actually certified versus somebody who just does hair and does sew-ins in their spare time. All right, Patrice. Well, it's great talking to you,
It's
and everybody. Thank you for hanging out and putting up with us for 30 minutes to do our daddy-daughter discussion. This is our goal to kind of help fathers and daughters communicate in a way that is productive and effective and fulfilling in the lives of both people. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.